You're a mean one, Mr. Gingrich. Good morning. Friday Eve. How's it going? It's Thursday. It's October 10th. It's 8:02 in the morning. This is my third time recording this. My hard drive keeps filling up. And so I had to go in and delete stuff, and then I didn't delete enough, so now I went and deleted more. So hope because we have a long forecast. We have a lot to cover this morning, and I'm going to take my time and cover it. And hopefully you're interested enough to watch as much as you like. Skip around if you like to. And so here's what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, we have a request. Oh, look at that. I'm showing everybody. So here's the request. My girlfriend is flying into and out of Colorado in like 2 weeks. Any weather systems to keep an eye out for that? Well, the short answer is going to be no, not really. We do have a system in Colorado in about 9 or 10 days. And we will show you that when we get to the GFS, which is here. And so when we get to the GFS, we'll go ahead and show you in 9 days that there is a system moving through Colorado right there. And then it's gone, and that's about the 20th. So in about 10 days, there could be a system to worry about. And I guess that's getting close to 2 weeks. So we'll go over that in more detail. Also, just to let you know, coming up tonight, we're expecting northern lights very far south. So the northern lights are going to be the middle latitude lights, maybe even the southern parts of the United States lights. As we had a big solar flare a couple days ago be hitting the Earth's atmosphere by tonight, and it should be the best show in years. And that's saying something because May was a great show. Now, what you may find, and what I was surprised to find, but I've learned that say the last show we had, which was a couple nights ago, and I took a couple pictures. I saw a few pillars very faintly, briefly this last time. But with the long exposure with my camera, I got a couple really nice pictures. And so the long exposure from a camera is going to bring those out. You may or may not be able to see a lot with the naked eye, but the camera is going to show you a lot more than that. And also we're going to talk a little bit, kind of our last update for Milton, as Milton is now leaving the stadium, leaving Florida behind. And in its wake, we still have a few hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings. Those will be going away today. Still flooding concerns across Florida, and still some wind in the southeast. Wind advisories for much of Florida into Georgia and even South Carolina, as the wind field around Milton is enough to cause some gusty winds. Meanwhile, cold air invading the Northeast. Freeze warnings for West Virginia. Freeze watches. West Virginia, Maryland into Pennsylvania. And a freeze warning for parts of Colorado. Alamosa looks like area. Those high mountain valleys that cold air settles. Cold air sinks. So it settles into those valleys and it gets cold, and it's going to be cold tonight. Freeze warning comes, it's going to end your growing season. So goodbye, growing season. All right, I was going to show you this. Here we go. You would think on my third time around I'd be more practiced. This is more ragged than the first two. Anyway, here is Milton. Say goodbye, Milton. Milton hit last night, I don't know, Eastern time, maybe about 10, around Tampa. Storm surge is your biggest concern for loss of life and property. Thankfully, a lot of people evacuated, so this was the biggest danger area here. And then Milton just moved right across to Orlando and now moving offshore with some lingering showers, still some gusty winds here, but Milton pretty much out. Those gusty winds, again, affecting parts of the southeast too. Meanwhile, on the west coast, we see some high clouds mainly streaming here. Not a lot of precipitation from these clouds, but some cooler air is coming in from the north and northwest, and that'll finally be cooling things off for the plains as we go through time. We'll show you that. All right, let's say goodbye to Milton, our last update. As of 8 o'clock this morning Eastern time, so about an hour ago, maximum sustained winds were 85 miles an hour, movement east-northeast at 18 miles an hour, pulling away from Florida. A few hurricane warnings hanging in there. And then in the blue, the tropical storm warnings. Those will be going away later today. Here's the rainfall as of 3 a.m. this morning, the last 48 hours, and anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 inches plus. So in the brown, just that swath right along and north of the hurricane is where we saw the heaviest rainfall. I saw a report last night, St. Petersburg had 17 inches of rain. So obviously some big flooding concerns here on top of everything else. And as we take a look at our weather spotlight, we do see out of Melbourne, Florida, lingering effects from Hurricane Milton. So you're high risk at the beaches. Be careful with deadly rip currents. They'll pull you out to sea in a hurry. Breaking waves of 7 to 15 feet is going to bring the surfers out. You know that's true. But I think they know what they're getting into. But, please be careful out there, obviously. Wind and rain, lingering showers, gusty winds, 50 to 70 plus miles an hour. So lingering effects from Milton, and things will be improving. Surface for today, there's Hurricane Milton moving out into the Atlantic. Lingering showers for Florida. Rain mixed with snow, maybe some snow. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. In the Northwest, Montana, some rain, maybe mixed with snow. And a few spotty showers, perhaps Kansas, Oklahoma. It's going to be warm, though, much of the country. The cool stuff up in the Northeast, 10, 15 degrees below average. Very nice. A few degrees below average up and down the East Coast. Very much above average, North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, like 30, 35 degrees above average today. Just ridiculous. But we're going to fix it. 20 degrees above average where I live in Iowa. 15 degrees above average Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. 10 to 15 degrees above average the rest of the West. And this is how those highs translate to 70s for the Willamette Valley. It should be cooler than that this time of year, really. Mid-80s for the Central California valleys. 104 for Phoenix. Still hot. Mid-90s, Texas. Upper 80s, Kansas. Upper 80s, South Dakota. Are you kidding? Again, we're going to fix this. 70s, though, as you get into the Midwest and Southeast, Mid-Atlantic. And then 60s and 50s and 40s north of that. So that's where the good stuff is. And tomorrow morning up in the Northeast, it's 30s and 40s to start the day. 30s from Michigan into Wisconsin. 40s and 50s for the Plains. 60s for Texas. And the West looks nice. It's drier air. So it cools off quickly. So even, mid 40s for the Willamette Valley and into the Northwest. And some 30s with elevation. But the desert Southwest, it's a dry heat to start the day in the 70s. Surface for tomorrow, showers in Florida, showers in the Great Lakes where it's cooling off. Our cold front moving south through South Dakota, North Dakota, a relief from the heat is coming. Same for you, Nebraska. Same for me, Iowa. And then further south in the plains, you have to be a little bit more patient. Some rain up there in Northern California. Departure from average tomorrow. We see that relief for North Dakota, South Dakota, but still 10 degrees above average. It's like 25 degrees above average for Iowa into Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas on the warm side too. 15 degrees above average. And much of the West still above average. Slightly below average, Mid-Atlantic into the Southeast. Those highs are in the 70s. For tomorrow. Still 90s, though, for Texas into Oklahoma and Kansas, near 90. Some 80s for, 87 for Des Moines, but cooling off in the northwestern part of the state as that cooler air starts to invade. 60s for North Dakota. Good news, it's coming. But still triple digits, southern Arizona. By Saturday, cold front making progress through the plains and the Great Lakes. With some showers there, Midwest Great Lakes, and some rain for Northern California. Still some showers for Southern Florida as well. Your departure from average on Saturday, some relief in the Northern Plains. Still 10, 15 degrees above average, though, but definitely cooler. The hottest above average temperatures getting shunted further south into Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and into Texas. Slightly below average Northeast and Southeast and Northern California. We'll just call that average. but slightly above average for the Northwest. And that's going to change, and we'll show you those temperatures not only through this weekend, but next weekend coming up. Those highs on Saturdays still near 90 for Kansas, low 90s Oklahoma, and mid 90s into Texas, but 70s for Iowa, still above average, but tolerable this weekend, and even a bigger cool off on Sunday. 60s up there in North Dakota, in Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and Michigan, and into the Northeast. All right, let's take a look at, let me get it set up here, the GFS, and we'll start with this morning. And here's Milton leaving Florida behind. Have a nice trip out there in the Atlantic as you go away. Everything else is pretty quiet. This gets us to tonight. Cold air moving into the Northeast is kind of really the biggest story right now. Some cooler air for the Northwest, but, still well up into Canada, most of that. That's going to change over time. This gets us into Friday. Now Saturday, you see some of that cold air getting into the Northeast a little bit, along the northern borders into the Great Lakes, some, kind of a little bit quiet Saturday. Sunday, a little more amplified, so we're seeing more showers. Eastern Great Lakes, we're seeing more cold air moving into the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and into the Great Lakes as we get into Monday now. You see that colder air dipping further to the south. This is Monday afternoon. Maybe some snow up there in New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Colder air getting all the way down into Kentucky and the Virginias, into Tennessee, that cold air dipping down. This is Tuesday morning. So nice cool off for New England and the Northeast and the East, with this low up here in the maritime provinces of Canada, spilling that cold air into the Great Lakes and further east. So very nice here. Man, look at that 540 line all the way into South Carolina. So a big cool off here as we get into next week. This is Tuesday night and into Wednesday with that cold air. Now we're starting to see more activity in the Pacific Northwest. This is Wednesday with some showers moving into Idaho, Montana, also Oregon, Washington. This cool high pressure settling in the east. So just very nice middle of next week for the eastern half of the country. We're starting to see a little bit of wind here in the plains. That's what these lines getting close together means. But ahead of our system, that's going to be dropping down into Colorado around the 20th. So this is the 17th. We see rain and snow for Oregon, into Idaho. So Pacific Northwest cooling off for sure. Some rain for snow for Yellowstone. Snow into Wyoming. A lot of snow here for Utah, Wyoming. Now, we're getting further out in the forecast, so certainty goes down a little bit. But you can see this is a strong system. Lots of wind in the plains. Lots of wind in the Rockies, even in the west. A big cool off for the Pacific Northwest around this system that's pretty strong. Moving into Colorado around the 19th. So a lot of Wyoming snow, some Colorado snow, some Utah snow, even western Nebraska snow. Then that turns into a cold front that's going to be moving into the plains. This is the 19th. So this is a week from day after tomorrow, a week from Saturday. So we see that cold front lining up with some thunderstorms. Usually at this time of year, some of these could be severe, so we'll keep an eye out for that. And then a sharp cool off behind it, with that cold air invading the northern plains, and just dipping down and then pulling back up. So not a deep invasion of cold air all the way down into Texas, but it will be cooling off in Texas. We'll show you that here in just a little bit with this cooling, this trailing cold front into the plains and some rain further south. This gets us into a week from Sunday, the 18th, with some rain moving into the Pacific Northwest. And you can see your girlfriend traveling in and out of Colorado. There'll be some wind in a couple weeks, but it's going to be quiet in 11 days, 12 days, 13 days, 14 days. So Colorado stays quiet after that system moves through in about 10 days. All right. Here are your anomalies for Sunday, your departure from average, much above average for Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, into Mississippi, moving up into the Midwest, above average, not much above average, but above average. And then just north of that, sharply below average for New York State into the rest of the Northeast and even the Great Lakes. Above average for the Northwest as well, closer to average for Arizona. So we're getting there. Arizona only 100 for Phoenix on Sunday. It's the only triple digit on this map, so that's nice. But upper 90s still for Texas on Sunday. But cooler for the northern plains and for the Northeast and for the Great Lakes. Here are your 6 to 10 day temps. Now I know this is usually my last maps, but I have a bunch of maps for next week, so hang in there. For the next 6 to 10 days, the 15th through the 19th, above average temperatures, western half well below average for the mid-Atlantic into the southeast, parts of the east and the Midwest. So that's our big cool off that we showed you on the GFS, and we'll show you here on our anomaly temperatures. And precipitation wise, Pacific Northwest picking up some rain, so maybe above average rainfall here and down in Florida. All right, here are your departure from average temperatures. We'll just show you these anomalies. So this is Monday, the 14th. So well below average for the Northeast, and finally below average for the Midwest and even into parts of the plains. And Texas, keep an eye out. West Texas, you got 1 degree below average for Lubbock, Texas on Tuesday. Oh, that's good stuff. But look at the east, just really below average temperatures. As we get into Wednesday, you see another spike in temperatures moving into the plains, but very cool along the East Coast and cooler now for the Northwest. And this is our system that's going to be dropping in to the Rockies, so much below average now for Oregon, Northern California, much above average ahead of the system, moving back into the upper Midwest and into the plains. And then, so this is Thursday, here's Friday, and that cold air invading the West and moving into the Rockies Saturday. There's your snow for Wyoming, into Colorado, into Utah. And that cold front moving into the plains, you go from 15 degrees above average in Wisconsin to 15 degrees below average, a 30-degree swing in Kansas. So cold air moving into the plains on Saturday, a week from Saturday, and then a week from Sunday. There we see a nice cool off for Texas. You're welcome. And I looked up those temperatures for, say, Lubbock. You're looking at 7 degrees below average. So that'll get your lows into the 30s, not quite freezing yet, but it'll be refreshingly cool in the morning in the 30s, and then highs maybe in the 60s to low 70s. So relief is on its way. All right, that was a lot to cover. I'm surprised I did it in under 20 minutes. Get out and take your camera out tonight. Get some of those pictures of the Northern Lights. It's your best chance to see them. It's going to be a pretty good show, I think. And I'll show you pictures tomorrow, assuming I get some good ones. So we'll have that for you. And, of course, your forecast as we continue here on the Weather Mic. Thanks for tuning in.